First of all, I just want to, again, I know I said this earlier in the process, just want to thank, the personnel staff, the coaches, all our support staff, the PR staff, just everybody that puts time and effort into this weekend. It's a long process that starts, in the middle of the summer for our guys, and to get to the end of it and feel really good about helping your football team is a really good feeling. And so I'm very, very appreciative of everyone's efforts. And again, I think we had a really good opportunity in front of us as we started on Thursday, and sitting here right now, I feel like we did a lot of good things for our football team. So we're excited about that.
Matt, 4 out of 5. Sorry, Brian, it's late.
Yeah, I'm with you.
4 out of 5 years now, you've gone with 3 offensive linemen, which is kind of unique. Is that almost? Did you need that much help? And I guess in general, what do you think of that group that you're going to bring in?
Yeah, I would like to do that all the time. I think it's such an important part of what we do, and protecting our quarterback, and I just think you got to win games in the trenches. So, but yeah, this group, it was a group that started off obviously in the first round, and when we got into today, there was with Jacob Monk, I think it was a guy that I think we all really wanted to acquire, and so very excited about that, and then finishing up with Glover. I mean, he's a exceptionally talented kid that all his best football's in front of him. So, again, versatile guys like we've talked about before, guys that can play inside and outside. I think Monk obviously is more center guard, inside. But I think these guys are not only fits athletically for what we want to do, but culture fits for our room as well.
What do you like about doubling and tripling up on positions? You've done that in the past too.
Mm-hmm. I think we try to follow the board, and I think I'd like to think that we're disciplined enough that even though we've picked a guy at that position, if the highest rated guy is at that position, we're not afraid to stay there. I think, you can make a mistake maybe because, hey, we just picked a guy at this position. Maybe we should, not take him because even though he might be the highest rated guy, but I think we do a pretty good job of staying disciplined to the process, trusting the board. It happened a couple of times this weekend. It's happened before where we've just kind of said, okay, hey, I know we took a guy here, but this is the best player that's on our board right now. Let's stay with it.
Speaking of highest rated guys, you guys got you took the first inside linebacker. Mm-hmm. Theoretically, you got your first choice there. Mm-hmm. The running back thinks he's the best running back in the draft. How often do you think in a draft that you can get the best guys at positions or more than one?
Ooh, that's a tough. I mean, I don't think it happens very often where you're taking the top player on your board at that position a bunch of times in a draft. That's just hard unless you got a ridiculous amount of picks up top. But there are some positions that maybe traditionally aren't taken in the first round that you have a better chance to do that than others. But I don't know. To me, it's just about kind of following your board, and sometimes there's a bunch of guys. At one position last year the tight end position was a great thing. I mean, there was a bunch of guys last year in that tight end class that would have been the number one tight end in a lot of years. So sometimes it just falls different every year. So again, I think for those of us that have done it for a long time, I think we can recognize that where there's a certain position that it's just really strong or really weak, and address that accordingly.
On the outside, it seems like you were able to target some needs on your roster. Was it a fortune of having value kind of fit those needs? Did you come into this draft really looking at, okay, these are positions that we really got to focus on? How did that kind of work out? Yeah, I think I've always thought that subconsciously sometimes when you build that board starting in February, that your needs are kind of baked into it. I think it's not something you set out and say, okay, we got to have this many guys at this. I just think it's you understand your football team, you understand where your needs are. So as you're going through that process, I think it's just when you scout for your team and not for the league in general, I think sometimes that subconsciously is just part of it. Certainly when you're within this weekend and you're picking players, if there's equal value and there's guys that need positions, that weighs in for sure.
What's the biggest way in which you think your defense has gotten better these last few days? Where's the biggest area in which you've strengthened?
Yeah, certainly we had a lot of guys on the inside of our back end that can really run and hit. You know, I mean, taking the linebackers and the safeties, and you know, particularly two of the safeties that we took that can go play nickel as well. So really just kind of fortifying the inside of our defense with guys who I think are going to help us right away, and then also some depth. So I think that's probably how we've gotten better.
I realize you only have so many early picks. You didn't take a corner till the 7th. You got a couple of guys over there who've had some injury issues the last few years. How do you think you're sitting there? How's your roster right now?
No, I feel pretty good about it right now because we're running around in shorts and everybody's healthy, you know. So, but no, I understand your question. I think certainly if it would have fallen right, we would have addressed that probably earlier. It just didn't. So, it was kind of one of those years with that position. But you know, right now, you know, I really like our group and I like the way they look. We got a long way to get to September with everybody healthy, but I like the way it looks right now.
Goody, speaking of corner, what do you like about King and you know, we're getting old now.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how many of these conference calls I've heard, 200 some or whatever, at Donnell Washington's dogs barking and stuff. But I don't know if I've ever heard anyone so emotional as King was about how disappointed he is that he went from being a potential first-round pick to being picked where he was. He's got to play, and he's got to do it, but having a guy that's motivated like that, what does that tell you too?
Yeah, I think, you know, I mean, I think our league is kind of, there's been a long history of guys that kind of felt they were overlooked and use that as motivation to drive themselves. So hopefully that'll be the case. I didn't hear that interview, so I know, you know, he's certainly was a guy that I think expected to go higher. And as we kind of went through it, you know, we felt very fortunate to be able to pick him where we did. He's got a really nice skill set. He played some high-level football at Penn State. You know, so, you know, I think he's got some versatility too to play outside, play nickel as well. So, and again, I think his best football is ahead of him as well. So I think, you know, he's a young player. He was a 3-year player coming out. So, you know, hopefully that does drive him. You know, I think we're going to have a very competitive secondary right now, and I feel really good about that. And it's going to be fun to watch those guys kind of excel.
So what happened there with him? I mean, he was an All-American last year, like 21 pass breakups, and this year he had 2. I mean, it wasn't like he wasn't throwing it; he was throwing it a fair amount. So what happened to us?
It's hard to say how, you know, why certain guys kind of fall in the process. It happens every year. Sometimes it's testing, sometimes it's medical, sometimes it's other things. So in his particular case, I can't really tell you other than the fact that, you know, we're glad that he did and glad we were able to select him where we did. And hopefully, yeah, history will prove that he should have been drafted a lot higher, but can't really pinpoint that one.
You used the word competitive, and it's not like in 2018 you didn't want to have a competitive camp, 2020 you wanted a competitive camp, but for what you've been able to set up in terms of the competition and how competitive with young players, versatility, is this about as competitive? Do you feel like it's going to be about as competitive a camp that you're entering into now?
I hope so. I mean, I think it's, you know, we're going to try to do that each and every year. I think moving forward, I think it's always kind of the goal. You never really know till you get in it and kind of how your health sits and how guys perform. And I do think, you know, we talked a little bit about it over the weekend in here about, I just think maybe learning a little bit through last year about, you know, giving guys opportunities and allow that competition to take place, how that can positively affect your football team, not only in training camp, but all the way through the season as well. So, you know, I'm excited for this group to join our veteran guys and just kind of see where they go. But I do think that, you know, for the most part, most of our rooms are going to be highly competitive, which is fun.
Is that competitive piece why you didn't mind having another big class? I mean, you've a few years now, you've had some high numbers in your draft classes. Is that part of that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, again, the more the better. I think if you're gonna try to build each and every room the best you can each and every year, you got to have enough picks to do that. You know, I mean, even with 11, we weren't able to address everything. You know, so it's just part of it. We, you know, again, our roster numbers were a little higher going into this draft, which is good and bad. But so I think, you know, right now with these 11 picks, that got us into the mid 80s, and we signed some undrafted free agents, and, you know, we're going through that process a little bit right now. So I feel really good about the competition across the board. That'll always be the goal. Some years are easier than others to do that.
Brian, can you clarify with JJ? He explicitly said the day after the season ended that he tore his ACL. Then Matt just said it was never confirmed. Maybe that's why you guys didn't draft an edge rusher. Did he ever tear his ACL, and where?
Yeah, so JJ had an ACL injury, and certainly we feared for the worst when that went down. pleasantly, I think we got some good news, and we think that we may have avoided, something as serious as a complete tear. So he's working through that right now. We're very hopeful that, he'll be able to avoid surgery, but we'll see how that goes.
I asked John Eric this too, but do you want to be one of the 5 youngest teams most years, or is that just a way stop in roster building?
I don't think I don't think there's a goal to be one of the youngest 5 teams. I don't think we're looking at that. I think we want to be young, and we want to be growing, and we want to be getting better. We want to have young legs and be fast. And I think the age thing's just a number. It's more about our explosiveness, our speed, and the competition part of it. So we'll never shy away from being young. I don't think we will ever do that. But I do think we want to be green and growing. But this group. That took the field last year for us, as they grow, I think it's going to be important that they continue to grow, because we're going to always bring in competition. So they're going to have to keep getting better, if they want to accomplish the goals that they want to accomplish.
You told us in Indy that you would like to draft a quarterback, and you did. So what did you like about Pratt?
Yeah, obviously a winner. He really turned that program around, started a lot of games for him. I think he won 21 or more games over the past 2 years. He's a good athlete. He's got a pretty live arm, very accurate. Just kind of like the way he handled himself in the games that he played. Had some big wins. We were excited. I wanted to add a quarterback. A bunch of them went early, and so there wasn't a lot of guys available in the mid rounds. And as we got later and later, he was kind of the only one left that we really wanted to target, and we were able to get him, which was nice.
Hey, Brian, I'm not a doctor, you're not a doctor, but I swear that either Dr. McKenzie or someone said, like, a partial ACL tear is an ACL tear because it never heals itself. Is this something different, or?
Yeah, it's something different. I don't want to get into the details of it. And like I said, we're still working through it, and we're still hopeful that there will be no surgery. And he's looking good. He's working hard right now. Walking out of that locker room that night, that was a tough break, and I think we over the course of time we got some positive news. We were able to keep it quiet, which was good for at least a little while. It's obviously that was a little bit of a blessing, but we're still working through it. We'll see where that goes.
Brian, we talked to Sam Seal in here earlier today. He was joking that he hasn't been at the podium for like 8 years.
That can't be right, can it? Yeah.
What has he just meant to the organization behind the scenes? Obviously, I guess finding Aaron to finding Jordan and a guy who's really done some good work here.
Yeah.
The more you can do, your work. I've never done.
I had to turn it off last night, so.
Where's Hall? That was a very good question, and I apologize for all that, but there we go. Sammy's been here longer than I have, which there's not many of those guys around, and he really embodies a lot about our personnel staff, and he's such a, he has so much experience and so much wisdom, and he's such a big part, not only the players that he's scouted, that that has helped bring to the Green Bay Packers, but just really the way, in his own way, how he mentors our staff, and me included, so he's a rock. He's someone that we all count on, and lean on, and at times. He's the guy that has no problem telling you what he thinks, even though you may not want to hear it, and that's refreshing. So he lives in California, and he's gotten soft, but he's got a lot of Jersey in him when it comes to making decisions and player evaluations. So he's a friend for me. He's a great scout, and he's meant a lot to this organization over the years, and certainly been a big part of our success. So. He always tells me this is his last year for the last 8 years. So, but I think he'll scout forever. So, and he's one of the best. So,
any particular guys you drafted these last couple of days who are ideally suited to help you out in special teams?
Oh, well, actually a bunch. Obviously the linebackers and safeties, right? Big time fits for Rich and what he wants to do. I do think even some of the guys, I think. Lloyd, the running back, I think he might have some ability to do some kick returning as well. And his speed, he may be able to use them in other spots as well. So, no, I think this group, their speed and their physicality is going to lead, to probably a lot of special team snaps over the course of the next couple of years.
I'm not sure how many of your guys went to the Senior Bowl this year, but it was the majority of them pretty clearly. Why is this such an important tool for you?
Yeah, not by design, but I will say that the Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy and his staff do such an amazing job of access and allowing us to scout those guys that go there. And it's such I think a really positive experience for the players. Not only the competition on the field, seeing really good players go against really good players in drills, but our ability to talk to them, interview them, be around them in that competitive environment is just, there's really not a much better evaluation phase for us. So it's very important for us. We put a lot of time into it. And like I said, their staff down there in Mobile, they do such a good job of getting us into spots where we can really evaluate these guys. So we're very appreciative of that. And but it's certainly not by design. But I know we've taken a lot of Senior Bowl guys over the years.
Brian,
along those lines, is there something too at the Senior Bowl where you're seeing just kind of like the more raw abilities of the guys? Because it's not about game planning. It's not necessarily about matchups. They're lining up across from guys that maybe they've never seen before. Like, is there something to that from a scouting perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think the willingness to compete and put themselves in that environment. I mean, that's not an easy thing to walk out onto that Senior Bowl practice field and with all these NFL people, judging you. It's not an easy thing to sort of A, choose to do that, and then B, to compete at a high level when you're out there. That none of that's going to phase you. I think that says something to me. So I think that's important.
Brian, did Glover make a jump up your board because of the Senior Bowl or some of the postseason stuff that he did, or did you always have him kind of in that 6th round range? Or?
No, I think it definitely helped him. I think it helps anybody, whether you come from a Power 5 school or whether you come from a small school. But I do think sometimes when you come from a smaller school where you may have more questions about level of competition, and then you walk out into the Senior Bowl, going to go against those guys and prove yourself a little bit, that certainly can help you. And in his case, it did.
You told us you can't fall in love with guys, but I feel like early on in this, you said something about Monk, about there were a couple of guys in your room that really liked him and you really wanted to get him. What was it about him that you really were kind of smitten with?
Yeah, really. First of all, he's a really good player. He's very quick. He's very strong, powerful man. He can play guard. He can play center. So he's got the versatility that we like. He's a 2-time captain. I think he started 50-some games there with the kind of the NIL and the COVID rules. So he's shown to be exceptionally durable over a long time at a position that's hard to be. So just the more we got to know him as a person, and then all the things coming out of there, it was he really felt like he was a fit for what we're trying to do, not only athletically and what he can do on the field, but just kind of the grit and determination that you have to be a really good player in that room.
John Eric made a reference to kind of you guys digging into who guys are, and it's not like Ron and Ted didn't have you guys doing that too, but you can't have all perfect human beings on your team, but it seems like you guys are really serious about that from the outside looking in. Is that, how do you go about that? I mean, guys could head fake you, right? And make you think they're great guys, but how have you gone about that? And is that something that you've really kind of gone all in on?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's always been important. I think we've probably continued to push that envelope a little bit. I think it's important for us. You can get fooled. Guys can change. That's very much part of it. But I do think, the boots on the ground, our area scouts that go into these schools multiple times, develop the relationships with the people. Since COVID and some of the new rules, the transfer rules, it's gotten harder because, a lot of these guys are transferring and moving schools. So the coaches that have been at these places haven't known them their whole time. They didn't recruit them in the home, and then they didn't have them for 3 or 4 years and watch them grow, right? So they may have them for 6 months because they transferred in, and that's what they had them. And so our guys have really kind of had to get outside their comfort zone and their boundaries to find these things out, and they've done a wonderful job of it. And we've really pushed them to do so, and they've done an excellent job. But it is important. And again, you're never going to be perfect with those things, but we do feel that the guys we're adding into that locker room, who they are and what they're about is important. And that's the those things are going to lead us to have a really good cohesive team. And, I commend our guys for doing a really good job on that stuff.
When it comes to versatility on the offensive line, a lot of times the conversation is whether a guy's a tackle or can play inside. But inside is obviously two different positions, guard and center. What are the defining characteristics you're looking for on whether a guy can play all three of those inside spots or whether he's just a center or a guard?
Yeah. I think, obviously, people talk a lot about the length on the outside that you have to have, which I think you do, but at the same time, if you're a good enough athlete and can move your feet, you can overcome some of that. When you move inside, I think things happen a little bit faster and a little bit more powerful guys in there. So your ability to set your anchor and stay low and play quickly, a lot of the twists and stunts are coming in there, so you have to have really good eyes and anticipation. So there's some different subtlety skill sets that you have to have. Again, we'd love to have our entire group be able to play all 5 spots, and I think we've done a good job of getting close to that. We've had some guys. I mean, look at Zach Tom. He's not your prototypical tackle, but he has such good athletic traits and awareness and instincts that he can do it. So, there's some subtleties between outside and inside.
Brian, can I clarify? You were talking about a 4-2-5, but I still need some more linebackers, not only for defense but special teams. How do you feel about heading into this now when you're bringing in the undrafted guys and free agents?
Yeah, no, I feel like we did a really good job of kind of adding to that room where I feel much more comfortable now maybe than I did. We were bringing back some players that have played here and played very well for us, but I think we needed to add some youth to it as well and some numbers. And sitting here today, right now, I feel pretty good about that.
At corner, do you feel like you're rolling the dice a little bit that Eric's going to get back to what he was in 2021, or Valentine can make a big jump just because you didn't add a lot of significant capital here this year?
No, obviously Valentine played exceptionally well last year for us. Eric looks very good right now. We brought back Corey Ballantyne, who played some really good football for us. So I like our depth there. I feel pretty good about it. Again, we wouldn't have shied away from adding if it would have felt that way. It just didn't. So, but at the same time, I didn't feel a overwhelming need to go be really aggressive towards that position because I like the guys in that room.
2 more, please.
Brian, I know the draft just ended, but obviously next year's draft will be here in Green Bay. Seeing the numbers in Detroit, how are you feeling about that coming to Titletown?
Yeah, we're all worried about getting in here, and on time because of the traffic. No, you got to give Mark and his team a lot of credit for being able to accomplish that and bringing this event here. I mean, it's turned into something that I don't think I could have ever predicted when I first started in this, that there would be that many people and there would be that much excitement, for the live part of that draft. But what it's going to do for this city, for this town, it's exceptional, and really excited just to see how it all transpires and how they handle it. And this is the Ted in me, but my first thought was, okay, do we got enough rooms for the scouts and the hotels? Do we got enough rooms for our players who are here? All the things, So, but I think we got all that squared away. So no, but it's going to be good. It's going to be great. Hopefully that. Hopefully we won't trade all our picks by the time we get to there, and we can give them a little bit of a show. But it's I will say it was really fun in the room when some of the guys that came up to announce our picks in Detroit. That was fantastic. That got a lot of smiles in our draft room today. The way those guys went after the crowd a little bit. So that was good to see. I'm sure there'll be some of that next year here.
Brian, can you take us through the trade that started the day and why you felt you had to get up there to 111?
Yeah, I think So, after kind of sitting there, we had, I think, 8 picks going into the day. After taking 5 guys, we were sitting at 13. And so I felt we had ammunition to kind of move around. The way our board was, we started to get thin for the 4th round. We were getting thin, and we had a couple players we really, really liked. And so we decided that, okay, do we really feel like we're going to have an ability to select these guys? I didn't think the odds were great, so we decided to try to move up. It took us a while to get that done, but once we got it done, we were able to kind of pinpoint some guys we really wanted to go after and select, and so that was kind of why.